There we go. Much better. Thank you for tuning in again live. Today is Sunday, November 12th. It is 1:01 p.m. And this is the Skill Building Sunday Drawing Group. And I am your host, Jason Leeser. And please tag a friend and drop a comment and let me know if this is working for you and if I'm coming through loud and clear. And welcome to Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo Community, where tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and the curious are encouraged to join in these live streams, real world events, to share and inspire and ultimately create better art and tattoos together. We beam out nearly every day, and with your help, have evolved into a quality network of amazing live and on demand tattoo and art shows that have all been receiving rave reviews. You can find Reinventing the Tattoo in both of the app stores, the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, as well as our Reinventing the Tattoo YouTube channel, our Reinventing the Tattoo Roku channel, which has 12 to 15 different episodes going at any given time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as well as all of the major podcast directories such as Apple and Spotify. Or you can do what most people do and just search for Reinventing the Tattoo in your browser and you'll find it all, except for the book, which is still currently out of print. But no matter where you were watching live or on demand, you can always find the latest, most up-to-date information, all available at www.reinventingthetattoo.com. You can try it out for free. You don't have to subscribe right away. You can choose from one of three options. We have the first option, which is a sample webinar from the Reinventing the Tattoo canon. Or you can choose to get some free advice from Guy Aitchison about your unique goals. Or you can take a comprehensive tattoo history course from Jay Brown. For fellow tattoo history nerds such as myself, this course is amazing. Highly recommend the tattoo history course. Can't say enough good things about it. At www.reinventingthetattoo.com, you can also find a full event schedule with full weekly and special event live stream details. For example, if you wanted to jump into today's live stream, you can go to the event schedule and there is a link and a calendar posted that has links to all of the live events coming up. At reinventingthetattoo.com, you as well have access to the Reinventing 24/7 channel, which is a lot like our Roku channel. It's got 13 different episodes playing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as well as access to over 20 world-class tattoo artist professional development courses, including people like BJ Batts, Bob Tyrell, Andre Malcolm's got a whole bunch of different seminars in there. I highly recommend that. We're joined by Seth Mushrush. And let me just finish getting through this intro, Seth. We have a number of weekly staple shows we always encourage people to tune into, starting off on Sundays at 1 p.m. with me, Jason Leeser, and the Skill Building Sunday Drawing Group. That's followed on Mondays with 4 separate shows. Starting off on Mondays at 9 a.m., we have Drawing for Tattooers with James Wisdom, where we get to go through and we discuss basic drawing techniques and strategies to help us get back to our roots of being a fine artist. That's followed on Mondays at 11 a.m. with the Tattoo Weekly Show, hosted by Gabe Ripley, Lauren Gregory, and Jake Meeks of the Fireside Tattoo Network. So if you're looking for a show with the current events going on in the tattoo industry, take a look at the Tattoo Weekly. That's followed on Mondays at 5 p.m. with another show called Let's Talk About Feelings with Robbie Ripple, where we get to go through and we've got a safe place to go through and discuss certain things that maybe other people in our lives can't really relate to because they're not part of the industry. So if you're looking for a place to go through, to vent, to get ideas and talk about certain things going on in your life with other tattoo artists, take a look at Let's Talk About Feelings with Robbie Ripple. Once again, that's Mondays at 5 p.m. Capping off Monday evening at 9 p.m., we have a subscribers exclusive drawing group with Sandy McAndrew from the Reinventing the Tattoo Network. And that is only available to people that have a subscription to the Reinventing the Tattoo canon or the, Reinventing the Tattoo Evolution course. Mondays shows are followed on Wednesdays at noon with the Tattoo Now show with Gabe Ripley, where we get to go through and do a deeper dive into the business aspects behind tattooing. And maybe it's travel visas, maybe it's marketing or strategies or, figuring out decent rates and all that stuff. That's all discussed on Wednesdays at noon and the Tattoo Now show with Gabe Ripley. Capping off the week at Thursdays at 6 p.m., we have the Tattoo Collecting 101 podcast with Fawn Baker. It's a great place to go to listen to people's stories on their tattoo collections and where they've gone and what they've gotten done and by who and all the things that led up to it. We also have a special event coming up. Reinventing the Tattoo will be live from the International Puerto Rico Tattoo Convention, December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in beautiful San Juan, Puerto Rico. I will be joined personally with James Wisdom and Seth Mushrush, who's on the call now, as well as phenomenal artists such as Fast Alley, Jimmy D'Alessio, Bill Canales, the Dragon King will be there live in person. Fibs will be there. All of the Tex family, James, Anthony, and Allie Mae. And that's just a few of the incredible artists that will be in attendance during the International Puerto Rico Tattoo Convention. If you are looking for a reason to take a vacation, highly recommend you take a look at Puerto Rico. It is going to be an absolutely incredible show. Highly recommend you take a look. I'd like to go through now and thank some of our sponsors and some of the people that make this show happen. Starting off with worldtattooevents.com, the largest, most comprehensive resource for tattoo events worldwide. They're constantly keeping everything updated. As we know, living in this post-pandemic era, there are still certain tattoo events that are getting rescheduled like crazy. So if you want the latest, greatest, most up-to-date tattoo event calendar in existence, take a look at worldtattooevents.com, where you can find listings for tattoo shows and events coming to a city or town near you, or maybe it's one you plan on visiting. Take a look at worldtattooevents.com. Would also like to thank tattoonow.com, technology for tattooers, the leading edge in professional development, management, and digital tools for tattoo artists of all levels. They are constantly keeping everything upgraded, and they are competitive with any type of CRM, mailing list, and scheduling software out there. They also have a new AI chatbot, which is super awesome. So if you're looking for the digital tools to really help you get more people to come through the door that want to get the kind of work that you really want to do, take a look at tattoonow.com. It is the #1 resource for tattoo business technology. Would also like to take a look at GuyAitchison.com. He is the founder and inspiration behind Reinventing the Tattoo. You can go to GuyAitchison.com, where you can pick up a copy of his Biomech Encyclopedia, some of his tutorial DVDs. I believe he still has a few custom coil machines for sale, as well as occasionally original oil paintings, all available at GuyAitchison.com. Would also like to say a very quick shout out and thank you to Amy Nichols over at the Apprenticeship Diaries. If you are looking to become a tattoo apprentice or know someone that is, tell them to look into it. It's probably the #1 resource for tattoo apprentices and apprentice hopefuls that you could possibly find. We always ask that if you like today's show, please go through and post a positive review on the channel. Help us get the word out. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to stay updated on all of the new shows coming out. And if you would like to host a Reinventing the Tattoo event, become a sponsor of our community. Or if you're looking for a fine art or a tattoo critique, you can always email management at reinventingthetattoo.com, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. That wraps up the intro for us today. We've got Seth with us today. Go ahead and feel free to unmute yourself, Seth. And today's topic is actually...
There I am. Sorry.
There you go. Today's topic is going to be one that Seth and I have discussed and covered many, many times over the years. And that's preparation. I always feel like preparation is a great topic to be discussed because I think it's something that a lot of people that are currently out there. I mean, it's something that we're starting to see a lot more of in this day and age, which is great. But I think it's still something that needs to be covered because it's a huge thing in this industry, right? If you're going to work at a tattoo convention or even just day to day, be prepared for it, right? Do your drawings ahead of time. Make sure that when that person shows up, you are set, ready to go, ready to tattoo. Like, you are there to do that tattoo, and you have done all of the prep work you could have possibly done or needed to do in order to make that happen. It makes the day go so much smoother. I'm actually working on a number of brand new designs that I'm going to be taking down to the Puerto Rico show with me this year. And that's something I've been kind of plugging away at for the past, I don't know, a couple of weeks maybe. But it's something that I always find very, very helpful whenever I'm planning on working at a convention. Getting new stuff drawn up for every single show, new original designs. Make sure that you're set up. You've got line work on hand, set and ready to go at whatever size you want to tattoo it at. If you got to make some last minute modifications, fine, not a big deal. But it's something that really can help you stand out from the crowd. Sometimes, we run into clients. I know Seth runs into clients all the time that want to make minor changes or little variations on stuff that can be done. But, it's really, really helpful to go through and, be prepared. Do your homework ahead of time. Makes sense. It's a lot, and it makes life so much easier. What do you think, Seth?
100% of the time, my clients never make any changes. I'm always just exactly what I draw is exactly what they want every single time without fail. Never made any changes my entire life. Is my nose growing right now?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm about to say you about to get struck by lightning there, buddy. You're driving that car.
About to flip my truck. I have to say, being prepared is, a lot of times people in our business tend to get lazy, and I've certainly been guilty of it. You become lackadaisical about something or overconfident about something and end up approaching a project with, the wherewithal, like, I got this, I can handle it. And even if it's something that you plan on drawing on them, for the sake of the design being more organic, or, that's just what you're going to be comfortable with, or it's a complicated cover up, it always helps to try and do a little bit of legwork, if not all of the legwork. Like, if you're not able to lay it all out ahead of time, then do a couple of sketches, do some quick thumb studies, and see if some thumbnail sketches and studies on a small scale to see if it'll work on a large scale, or play around with it, in Photoshop or Procreate or whatever you're, just tracing paper, old school, right? Analog style. Work that stuff out ahead of time. It's kind of like, being a doctor or a surgeon that's, top of their field and knows what it is they're doing. You can have all the confidence in the world, but I guarantee you that the best ones still do research before they go in. They research the patient, they research the project that they're stepping into, or the procedure that they're stepping into, just to make sure that they're up to date and, everything's dialed in. So you're not second guessing. I mean, you can compare it to many different things, but nothing really speaks volumes to your client than being prepared for anything that comes your way when the day comes.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, there's always going to be times that, personal opinion, of course. I think there's always going to be times that people go through and you're going to have to make some changes on the fly. And you're going to have to make some adjustments. You're going to have to make some last minute alterations. Maybe they change their placement up overnight. Maybe they decided that they wanted to add another leaf with another family member's name. I mean, it happens, there's no getting around it. It happens all the time. People are allowed to change their minds, and people are allowed to make last minute decisions. That is part of, their choice. And at the end of the day, your clients have a choice whether or not to get tattooed. I'm not saying that choice doesn't come with a cost. Like if you cancel on me last minute, there's a cost associated with that. I don't care who you are.
For sure.
That is not something that I am very fond of. Because this is how we make a living, right? So
absolutely.
It's like I try to show up every day, and I try to be as absolutely prepared as humanly possible. Not to say that, if I get a walk-in client that comes in that I didn't expect to be tattooing that day, fine, not a problem. Sketch it up on the spot, do what you got to do, make that money. But at the same time, if it's a scheduled appointment, I'm doing my homework. I'm going to reach out to them in advance. Like, hey, I know when you came in for that consultation, you said you had some reference photos that you wanted to go off of, and things that you liked and things you didn't like and you wanted to stay away from. But you never sent those to me. Your appointment's a week away. I'm trying to be prepared for it. Can you send me that information? I have no problems reaching out to clients about stuff like that, because that's what's going to make or break their tattoo. And that way I'm not wasting time.
Yeah. You have to have accountability. You have to have accountability with clients for yourself. If you're taking a tracing and you're acquiring all of these pictures, don't let them sit on the shelf. Don't put them in a drawer and forget about them. Work on it. Even if it's a month out, plug away at it a little bit at a time. My method, and then Henry, I'd be interested to hear what you do and what you do, Jason. But my method for making appointments and then doing the consultation prior to the appointment, because those are two separate meetings, right? In order to make the appointment, I need the person to come in. They can contact me via email. However, I'm setting it up now where they'll fill out a form online, but they still need to come in person to talk to me, because having that conversation in person, you can really iron out a lot of things that are much more difficult to do via social media or email or anything, even a phone call. Just way easier to talk face to face. You can kind of see what exactly it is that they're looking for. Now that may be 2 months away from the actual appointment date. So what I do is I try to judge about how much time I'm going to need to draw something up. Okay, so let's say, for example, it's half sleeves, floral stuff, and some water, whatever. I say, I might need 2 weeks to work on that drawing. So I'll make the appointment, a couple months out, and then make another appointment for their consultation about 2 weeks prior to the appointment to give myself enough time to draw. And the phrasing that I like to give to the client is, I'll have you come back in because usually when this happens, they come in and make their appointment. I'm usually tattooing somebody else or whatever, there's other things going on. I don't know any tattoo artist that doesn't usually multitask like that. So what I usually do is I tell them I'm going to have you come back in about 2 weeks prior to your appointment. That way we can go over everything again. At that point, I'll take a tracing of your arm, and we can discuss in detail, because I'll have the time put aside what it is exactly you want, and make sure we're still on the same page, make sure nothing's changed between now and then. And then that way, when I go to do the drawing, everything will be fresh on my mind. Have all the information I need right out in front of me, and it's not sitting in a drawer for a couple months. So, and they always seem to really appreciate that, and it works because then they come in and then I get hyped for the tattoo again. It's hard to say really motivated for a piece if you park it on the shelf and you're preoccupied with 9 other projects over the next month and a half. To come back to that and have that same fire that you had during the conversation you had with the person. So it always helps me when they come back in again, then I can sit down and have that time put aside dedicated to them and to our conversation. And then, that way I feel like, most of the wrinkles are pretty much ironed out. There's a clear trajectory of where they want this project to go, and I know how to take them there. So, then it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it.
See, so I'm one of those people where if I'm scheduling time for someone to come in, say they reach out to me and they want to get something done, great, let's have you come in for a quick consultation. I don't care if it's 6 months out. I mean, I don't typically book that far in advance on purpose, but I'm one of those people where, for me, the first time I meet that person and they come in and they want to talk about their tattoo, I like to make sure that I've got undivided attention and time just for that person. Especially during that initial meeting, the initial time when they come in to talk about their tattoo. I like to make sure that that is 100% focused on them. And a lot of the feedback I've gotten about that is that people really appreciate the fact that it's very one-on-one. I'm not distracted. I'm not, in the middle of tattooing someone else. Occasionally I will do that, but I always like to make sure that they know that they've got my full attention. And that their tattoo is number one priority. So I always try to schedule that and make sure that I'm available for them. That might be what you do during your second run-in with them, your second consultation.
Yeah. It's difficult to.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, it's for some artists, it is very difficult to do that at their whim, at their availability. And that's kind of the way that things go. More power to you. It's just something that I started doing, and it's something that I found to be very useful. Once again, you might do that during your second one, and that's awesome. Me, I like to make sure that I take as many detailed notes as possible. During that first consultation, I'll take a tracing if need be, photograph of the body part if I have to squeeze a tattoo in between other tattoos, sometimes several photographs. If, I'm trying to squeeze something in that kind of, crosses like certain visual planes, I want to make sure that I've got a photograph of each individual plane and one in the middle so that I know exactly how it's going to sit in each spot. But that all comes down to the homework, and that all comes down to the time that we spend and the time that we put in preparing for the tattoo. It's, I do something very, very similar with my process, albeit on a different timeline. Sometimes I will have them come back in to kind of check it out, size it up, make sure it fits the spot right, make sure it's in line with what they were thinking and what they had in their mind. And if they don't like it, well, then they can go to someone else. But that's my style. That's my style. You hear that coming from a lot of tattoo artists nowadays, and it's like, yeah, my style is doing tattoos.
Right. My style is making the client happy.
Exactly.
You guys are correct.
As long as I have that client leave that day and they're happy with their tattoo, I'm doing my job. That's my style. Because it's very much, no matter who you talk to, anyone that's been in this industry for any length and period of time knows that this is a customer service oriented field. This is not, a very selective kind of thing. There are thousands and thousands of tattoo artists out there in the United States alone in this day and age. People have a choice whether or not they go to you. It's very much customer service oriented. Be kind, show up prepared. Don't show up hungover from the night before. Don't show up still reeking like booze from the night before. Or, don't have gone outside and smoked a bowl before your client gets in. It goes to stand for professionalism and preparation. You show up for a consultation with me, and I am on point, man. I am set. I am ready to go. I've got my notebook together. I've got my measuring tape out if it's a bigger piece. I've got different ideas in mind. I've got questions written down that I'm going to ask my client. Do you want it in color? Do you want it in black and gray? If it's floral, what flowers did you have in mind? Oh, you don't know? You just like pretty flowers? Okay, cool. Let's take a look at some that I have saved on my iPad in my library. Do you like exotic or are you going for more classic? And I'll
That's a
spitball
great
different questions.
idea. Never thought about that. Just having that's a great idea because like people like that, but I can have a set. These not only are these the flowers that I like, but these flowers mean these particular things, and I can add
Bingo.
these to enhance your tattoo. Yeah, that's a great idea.
It's something that what do I have on here? Where did I? So just to give you an idea, in my flowers folder alone, so these are just some of the ones that I have on hand. I've got camellias, asters, narcissus, Venus flytraps, gladiolas, thistles, poppies, daisies, roses. I've got 954 different photos of roses on here. So if they can't find a type, size, angle, or perspective that they like, then they don't want a rose. You've got 954 different options.
Is that your
this is on my iPad.
Okay.
This is all saved in my photo albums. I also have daffodils, water lilies, forget-me-nots, peonies, irises, chrysanthemums, lily of the valley. I've got cherry blossoms, sunflowers, geraniums, another folder of like daylilies and calla lilies. Some stargazers are in there as well. Lotus flowers, violets, anemones, orchids, wild roses, also known as pink dog roses or shrub roses, hibiscus flowers, shrub roses, plumerias, stargazers, which are also part of the lily family, bonsai trees. I've got different ideas for trees of life saved in here and different types of different species of trees. It's like, cool, here's my iPad. Look through some pictures and tell me what kind of flowers you like. Granted, there's always people out there that want different stuff. Maybe they want a blue-eyed Susan, or maybe they want, silver bells or snowdrops or dewdrops. That cool. Awesome. Yeah, let's do that. I'll get some ideas together and, we can figure it out. But at least this way they've got an idea of different stuff. And I do the same thing with like, say someone comes in and they want, I don't know, a gorilla, right? Maybe they want a gorilla tattoo. Awesome. Well, I've got about 60 different photos of gorillas in different poses, different perspectives with different facial expressions. Let's figure out what it is you're looking for. Maybe it's not a gorilla that you want. Maybe it is a chimp or an orangutan or those blue face, weird looking monkeys that look like they've got the big fat lips. I forget what those are exactly called, but they're actually really, really cute.
A gibbon.
Are those gibbons?
But they have the blue faces, the one that looks like Rafiki from
No. No, I'm thinking of a very different type of monkey.
Okay. I hear the blue face, that's what I thought.
I believe they're blue-faced snub-nosed monkeys. And they look wild, man. They look really, really wild.
The amount of like preparation and organization that you do is, I mean, that's really what you want, like I know, like I would love that, but I also know myself enough to know that I will tend to do the research on a project when I know what the project is. I might set up some things ahead of time, like here and there, like, oh, I'd like to do this piece, or here's a couple drawings that I like to have. And I always keep some, Jason, you've been to the shop. There are drawings taped to every ceiling and wall around that place.
Oh yeah.
There's always things to do that haven't been done. But I just don't have, I know myself, and I know that if I do all of that work ahead of time, I will not be as sharp as I would have having had the conversation closer to the actual appointment.
True. That's very true.
And I've also done like extensive work on certain projects only to have the client, damn near pull a 180 with what,
Right.
They still want to get tattooed, but all this stuff is different. And that's how we end up with those things where it's like, well, at least I got this drawing now that I'm not tattooing this, but I can put it up on the wall. Maybe somebody else will get it at a different date. So it was more of a balance of that and a lot of like personal life. And I know a lot of tattooers have, like you travel a lot, you do all these podcasts. I mean, that's the fact that you can do all of that work is just really impressive. Like to have all of that. So, I mean, all those flowers and stuff ready to go. I usually go a little bit more, I don't want to say off the seat of my pants with that, but in the conversation, like an organic conversation where it's like, they might say, I don't know what kind of flower I want. And then, I might try to direct them by asking, maybe flowers that mean something. Is there a trip that you've been somewhere? Like kind of let the conversation at that point guide their kind of uncertainty or decision making. And that might be where I run into problems where it's like, that's why I have to meet with them again, because we have this conversation and they were so loose with what it is that they want. Now, I haven't gone so far as to start implementing these forms to fill out questionnaires ahead of time. My coworker does. She has them go so far as to set up the appointments themselves. Like they have access to the calendar. She knows how much time she has. She'll say, look at this month, find a spot with this time, and they plug themselves in. I mean, and she's busy all day long.
Right.
But I think like everybody has, the most important thing is that you're operating within your comfort zone, especially if you're just getting started. You should absolutely be putting in as much work all the time. You should be putting in as much work and homework as you can ahead of time to make sure you're prepared. But work within the parameters of what it is that you know how to do best, right? Like, and that doesn't mean like pigeonhole yourself into one style of art. You guys are both correct in that. We are paid illustrators. We provide a service. Our service is tattooing. I don't like the idea of saying, telling people like, I don't do color work, or do black and gray work, or, no, traditional stuff isn't for me. I feel like, you're selling yourself short. A tattoo is a tattoo. You can have fun with any of them. It's our job to make them as interesting as possible and as unique as possible. Even if it's something they bring in and it's a Pinterest style tattoo, you can offer some things that you can change to it or ways that you can make it unique. And in the end, they might say, no, this is what I want. And it's our job to do it. But something that really kind of grinds my gears is when, a client, like you said, Jason, they have the right and reserve the right to make changes to things. And if they decide they want to change something, hey, listen, I really thought about it. And the more I thought about it, I feel like, I don't want a marlin. I'm more of a freshwater guy. I really want a bass. I'm looking for like a largemouth bass tattoo rather than a blue marlin. I've only been deep sea fishing once. Whatever story they have. When artists tend to get frustrated with that and then they get all flustered, that's not them being mad at the client. That's them having a reaction to their own, I don't want to say mispreparation, but like their own work ethic. How can I say this?
I know what you're talking.
Yeah,
yeah.
When people get really frustrated with the client, like it's like, come on, man. Like this is a good job that we have, and it's okay if they change their mind. We haven't made this mistake yet. It's not on the table. We might have all the things to do so, but nothing's been technically cooked yet at that point.
Right. I think what a lot of artists get frustrated at is the fact that they didn't bother to sit back and maybe ask those questions or toss those ideas out in the initial consultation, or when they first had their client reach out to them, like, oh, cool, you want a fishing scene? Great. I forgot to ask you if you wanted freshwater or deep sea. So
Right.
now I've got this fishing boat drawn up that's for deep sea fishing. And, I've got this silhouette picture of a guy holding a tuna. And you were thinking more something on a riverbank with, a
Right.
guy casting a fly rod, right?
Right.
Um,
And that's where people get into like that, like what Harry was saying, where he's like, where people will, man, I lost my train of thought with that, where they're trying to ask questions about what specifically it is that the person wants. We need to have that knowledge. It's like you have, okay, so you have your preparedness. Like if you're having that conversation with somebody, you can hand them your iPad, right, and help direct them with that. I have like like an image bank in my head where I'm like, okay, they say they want to lure or they want to fish. Okay, freshwater, not okay. What kind of lure do you spinner lure? Do you want to chatter? Like all of these different things. Like just being well versed, right? Like
right.
don't pigeonhole yourself into something where you're gonna not ask the right questions of the client and then turn around and be mad at them later. Like that's it's our job is also to engage them in conversation to find out what it is they want. So many artists are like, you got to bring in what it is you want and then you got to show it directly to me. I don't think that's our
kind
job,
of stuff.
man. I think people forget to draw.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's kind of what we see a lot more of nowadays. We are starting to see a little bit more of a switch going on as far as things going into more of a niche industry, and I do believe that that is happening, and that's great. But at the same time, you're right. I completely agree. It's our job to ask questions of our clients so that we can visually help provide to them what they are looking for.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my preparation comes down to a few years ago, maybe more than a few, probably, oh God, maybe 8 years ago, I had a woman come in and she wanted a full half sleeve of like full upper arm, full color half sleeve of lilies. And I'm thinking, okay, cool, great, not a problem. Shouldn't be difficult. We set up the appointment time, didn't bother asking any kind of questions, didn't really bother to get any specifics, just said, cool, yeah, let's do it. When do you want to come in? And just kind of left it at that. And ended up having to go through and, had them come in, on the day of their appointment, took a look at it, and they were like, oh, I was actually thinking about something like this, and like these types of lilies as opposed to those. Turns out the person was a florist, and they knew exactly what kind of lilies they wanted. And I didn't bother to reach out to them. They didn't mention anything specific about what they wanted, and that was my fault for not asking them. So I take a lot of personal responsibility when it comes down to preparation. But I had spent hours and hours. This was pre-iPad days, so you had to go through and look through books and find your own reference photos and do all that kind of stuff and be like, okay, how is this drawn? How is this going to look? And then figure it out from there. So I had invested many, many hours into getting this whole half sleeve drawn up just to find out that I was focusing on the wrong thing. So I started to go through and collect pictures and do stuff like that so that way the next time someone came in, it wouldn't even be a question, in my mind. It would be, cool, what were you thinking? How did you want this to look? I'm trying to save everyone time. I'm trying to save everyone frustration, and I'm trying to give the client more of what they want. That's just kind of the way, like the purpose behind what I'm doing. But it's our responsibility as tattoo artists to ask our clients questions. Find out as much information from them as you possibly can about what's in their head. What are they looking for? If they're open to ideas, if they are open to suggestions, if they are open to whatever I want to do, great. That's awesome. I love that. Yes, by all means. But I'm going to get some information from you first, because what I'm going to draw up and what you may have in your head might be very, very different ideas. And that's, I love it when people come in and they say, I don't know, just do your thing. And it's like, all right, but you're probably not going to like it. But don't get
Yeah,
me
that's
wrong. I've
such a
got,
crapshoot.
I hate
yeah,
when people do that. What's interesting is they think that like we like that, but no, we actually don't.
well,
I
that
need
I'll turn
specifics.
around. I'll tell people flat out, okay, I'll do my thing and I'll come up with something, awesome for you. You need to give me either a direction, a style, a subject matter. You need to point me in a direction to go in, and I'll take off sprinting. But if you don't provide me at least basic instruction, I'm just going to draw something and you're probably not going to like it.
Yeah, you don't want to run
Right.
10 miles in one direction and find out the race was happening the opposite way.
Exactly.
Right.
I actually had a guy recently come in and do that. And he's like, no, I'm sure whatever you come up with, I know what you do and it's going to be sick. And I'm like, oh, well, thanks for the vote of confidence. And he
Right.
didn't want anything huge. So I was like, okay, small tattoo. Cool. I'm going to have fun with this. And I'm basically going to show this guy, like, listen, you probably should have mentioned something to me about what it was you wanted, just not to kind of prove a point, but just because, I wanted to have fun with it and it was a different idea. So I was like, yeah, he said I could do whatever I wanted. So here you go. Here's what I came up with. And it was a BDSM rubber ducky.
Nice.
I mean, we're talking like full leather restraints, spiked collar, ball gag in its mouth. Like, I went to town on this thing, right?
Yeah, that's
And
weird
I
that you
showed it,
said
and he got it.
Wait. Hold on. You went to town on an S&M rubber ducky? I just want to make sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. I mean, he
All right.
had limited time that day, so we didn't get to finish it just yet, but he
the
was
drawing.
thrilled. Yeah, he was thrilled with it. He absolutely loved it. He's like, this is not at all what I expected to come from you, and it's awesome.
The only time that really worked for me with the where somebody says like, oh, whatever you want, this is about as far as I'll let that conversation go, is he had two full sleeves from Marty Lacasse, and he says to me, he's like, oh, I want something Japanese. I want to do the lower half of my leg. Now I know Marty's style. I know I'm looking at his arms. I see what's there. I see what subject matter he already has.
And you're talking about Martin Lacasse, right?
Yeah. Yep. And he says, I want the lower half of my leg. I want to kind of like fill this whole area, knee to ankle, all the way around. I said, well, what, something Japanese? He goes, yeah, definitely something Japanese, but I mean, whatever you think. So this is about how far the conversation went. I've always wanted to do a Fudo. I haven't done one up until that point. I pull out the Fudo Mayo book, and I show it to him, and we're flipping through. He's like, yeah, I like this stuff. At that point, I can then say, all right, well, which one of these is going to make the best use of his space, right? Like which angle am I redrawing this at? How is this going to fit? All right, I got that down. Okay, so now I need to figure out what kind of elements do you prefer water? Do you prefer, he's usually surrounded by fire. I can do anything you want. He's like, I like the flames. Okay, perfect. So that's an example of kind of dictating where the consult and conversation is going while still allowing them to actually make the decision, right? Like I'm turning them this way or that way, but allowing them to say yes or no. And then he's like, well, what do you want to do on the other side? Tanya mask, something like that. I'm like, that doesn't really go with that style. Maybe,
right.
The dragon, maybe we do something like that. He goes, oh, dragon. I like that. So then we pull out dragon reference. We start flipping through that. I'm like, well, maybe we could position it this way or that way. Just kind of like, that's just an example of how, taking the time and patience to have a 5-minute conversation with somebody that wants to get tattooed by you, but doesn't exactly know what they want. How you can kind of turn that conversation into definitive answers. Dude is so psyched he wants to do his other leg. Like, and he's trying to go all the way up his leg, I think. So like, we're getting to do something that we want to do, but we're allowing them to make the decision. And when they came in, all they had was, I want to do the bottom half of my leg. That was it,
Right.
you know, and possibly that he wanted a particular, you know, style. If it were traditional work, I would have went directly to all my traditional stuff. You know, okay, are you thinking something nautical, or are you thinking something, you know, classic, you know, Western Americana? What are you thinking? You know, but we have to allow ourselves to have that conversation and not get frustrated with the person, and not. It's another thing that really burns me is when people are like, well, you know, you should do it like this because this is what I like to do. And it's like, they're not asking you to do exactly what it is you want to do. Usually when somebody says, whatever you want, they have something in mind already.
Yep.
They're having trouble dissecting it, you know, and it's our job to kind of bubble chart. Remember those bubble charts we used to make?
Oh yeah.
I'm going way back in English class. Yeah, you write the subject in the middle, and then you have the little branches coming off. And from each one of those branched out bubbles, you have other subsidiary branches. That's kind of how you have to work that conversation, right? Like but you're doing it with visual imagery, you know.
Right.
What are some because I do kind of get that a lot. You know, I used to kind of like turn clients away when they didn't know what they want. I'm like, well, you know, just come back to me when you know what you want. But sometimes I do want to like have little tricks in my pocket to say, well, maybe we could try this, maybe we could try that. What are some things that you kind of have in your toolkit to help you do that?
Well, I think a big part of it is, first of all, know that if they're walking into the shop like that, right? Let's say they're not coming to see you specifically, but they're coming into just a tattoo shop. They want to get tattooed. They don't know what it is that they want, right? At that point, try and put yourself in their shoes, okay? They want to leave with an appointment. I'm not sending them out of there without, you know, and it's my job to, you know, try and not dictate, to kind of curtail that conversation, to direct the conversation softly, you know, into what their interests are. My couple of big questions that I like to ask, and it's kind of like my own form letter, you know, the thing a company will send you that's already predetermined. It's a preset answer. This is kind of like my form letter type of conversation that I'll have with somebody. Is I'll ask, what are you into? Do you have any hobbies? What things do you like to do outside of, you know, work? What do you do for work? Is it a normal job, or is it a passion? You have a family. What do you like to do with your family? You don't have any kids. What did you do when you were growing up? And, you know, things like that, just to try and it's almost like almost like that 5-minute dating thing, you know, like where you're asking them questions just to try and dig a little bit to see what they're about. If they don't have any tattoos specifically, that really helps, you know. But the first question is always, do you have any pictures of things that you're interested in? Because sometimes they've already done that research. Sometimes they haven't. And when they say no, that's usually where I go with the conversation, because within a few minutes, you can kind of find out what things are the most important to them. Maybe it's nothing in particular is important to them. They just want to be decorated. And then that's where you can say, okay, well, what kind of things do you like to be decorated? You know, like, well, do you like color? Do you like black and gray? But it has to be a soft conversation, right? Because if you come at them too hard, I feel like a lot of people out there, and I've seen it. I mean, I've been doing it long enough to see the old school way of doing it, and then a lot of younger tattooers come in with this kind of puffed chest, so to speak, where they're like, you know, we're doing the clients a favor by being open. It's like, no, man, like we're service.
Yeah.
You know, like they're there to ask questions, and don't get mad at them because they don't know. You know, they may have never set foot in a tattoo shop or know anybody that has. Well, it's hard to do nowadays, but it's possible, you know. So you just have to be soft in the conversation, be open, and allow it to happen organically. Let it be like, you know, like fluid, like water. Let it kind of find its way, and you can guide it into what your strong suits are, you know, without telling them what they're getting.
So sometimes what I like to do is ask a bit more open-ended, ambiguous questions.
Good one.
You know, so I'll add, you know, and it's one or the other. And what it's doing is it's helping me gauge their personality. And I actually got this from I forget if it was Myers-Briggs or like another type of personality test, but it's a lot of very simple questions about their preferences that can really help you drill down what their personality is like and what kind of stuff, really appeals to them a bit more. So sometimes I'll start off with, even as simple as monochromatic or full color spectrum. Sometimes I'll start off with that.
Yeah, because
Okay, cool.
that really helps.
Yeah. Are you looking for black and gray? Are you looking for, or maybe it's shades of blue or whatever. But I'll start off with that and then I'll move into other ambiguous questions like hot or cold. Right.
Yeah.
I'll move into things like classic or exotic.
That's
just
a
to
good
help.
one, classic or exotic instead
Exactly.
of like traditional. A lot of people don't know what traditional means.
Right. But if you phrase it as classic,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it gives them a bit more, it's something that they can relate to a little bit easier. Are you looking for something more like old world, elegant? Are you looking for something maybe a little bit more modern and decorative? And these are all just very random, ambiguous questions that, help you determine who someone is. Do you like soft or do you like bold? If you like soft, you're going to go with more of a subtle shading, maybe a little bit more finesse in your values. Maybe you're going to create a little bit more modeling in the tattoo to really create a sense of depth and dimension with a lot of softer tones. If people pick bold, it's going to be a lot more graphic. It's going to have a bit more visual punch to it. Maybe it's going to have a neon colored outline around the perimeter. So these are all things that can help you gauge what someone's personality is so that you can turn around and maybe, come up with something that they had never even considered. I also like to ask beach or mountains, right? That's always a good one, just to go through and figure out, oh, okay, you want something different. You want something new. Great. Beach or mountains? Well, I like the mountains more. Yeah. What's your favorite sea? Random, ambiguous questions like that can help you come up with ideas. And I think of it more as like a visual, like decision chart, right? And each question that they answer in a different way can lead you to a different subject matter. Oh, you like fall and you like the mountains? Okay, great. And you like monochromatic and you like soft. Awesome. We can do some soft falling leaves with a mountainscape behind it, and we can do that in some nice soft grays, and boom, there's an idea for a tattoo. It's little things like that can make a world of difference.
And then you kind of create a client profile, like that. Just like, they didn't know that they liked fall, but what's not even that. It's there are so many reasons why they like fall, and you're able to take some of those reasons and put it into the tattoo, and that allows it to be more authentic.
Bingo.
Yeah, and organic. It becomes original that way. But you're still you're helping them, but you're not making the decisions for them, but you're softly guiding them.
Right.
And I've seen clients right in front of my face get turned away by other artists where, they'll contact me after the fact, and say, I really just wasn't vibing with that person or whatever. And I find that so hard to believe that an artist would allow that to happen. And that, I'm not always taking the client's side, but I'm just saying that, sometimes people are difficult to work with, but we're in the service industry and that's part of it, and you got to take the good with the bad. Sometimes it involves, you don't have to hold their hand the whole time, but sometimes it involves just helping them out. Don't be afraid to help somebody out. You'll be doing yourself a disservice and paint yourself into a corner by telling a client, no, this is the way you have to do it. Or, you know, I a while back worked with a person who would say when somebody would come in and show them something, and let's say it's a trite piece that's been done 400,000 times in the last 2 months. It just, you know how it goes. It pops up on social media somewhere. All of a sudden, everybody wants it, right? And it can be like
Right.
a line from a song, a design, or whatever it is, simple, whatever, complicated. It doesn't matter. If it becomes popular online, all of a sudden people start asking for it. And this person, the client comes in and says, or potential client comes in and says, "This is what I'm looking for." And the response was, "I mean, if that's what you want, you got to rock it, not me." And it's like,
Oh
why would
God,
you?
are you serious?
Yeah. Oh man. Now,
Wow.
now to that artist's credit, he would still eventually get them to get tattooed, and he would do a good job. But like that, it just irked me so bad. And it's like it reeks of somebody who is just burned out and had enough and doesn't want to put any effort into what it is. They want people to bring them the thing, and they want to do the thing. Now that's not to be said that you can't make an amazing living as a flash jockey, just banging stuff off the wall, giving people solid tattoos. You don't have to be an amazing conversationalist. You just have to do what it is we're being hired to do, and you'll stay busy. But if you want to cultivate a client base that will carry you through the next 2 decades, because they're going to bring their friends and family and kids, and maybe their grandkids at a certain point, or the kids bring their grandparents in, like this, that's what you want, for longevity. And if you want to be able to flex your own artistic freedom, that's how you gain that trust from those clients, is, by starting off at a slow roll, right? You got to get the ball rolling first, get that little snowball going down the hill before you can actually make a massive boulder of creativity out of it, and guide it wherever you want to.
Yeah, and I think once you develop that client profile, once you do that soft discussion to really kind of help them realize what it is that they're looking for, you now have that kind of information. You can look back at your notes that you took during that conversation, and you can say, "Oh, this is Elizabeth, and she likes soft fall. She likes cool. This is what her personality traits are like. This is what she says she prefers. So she just came to me, and now she wants a half sleeve because I did this little flower on her. Cool.
Mm.
I already have that information. Now I can go through, and since I already know what kind of stuff she likes, great. I can come up with something for you based on the questions that I
Conversation
asked you
becomes
before."
Yeah, the conversation becomes easier because you get to know that person. And that's where, like, I would probably do better if I had an approach like you do, Jason, where you're filing things and organizing things. And I really do. I admire that and appreciate that. I tend to do a little bit better where I can have all that stuff in my brain and just go, okay, I know when Steve comes in, he likes underwater stuff. I'm probably going to do something like that. You know what I mean? And then you can have those conversations or whatever it is. But it's not just a professional client profile, but they become more than a client. They can be a friend. They can be a friend in a professional environment, you know.
I mean,
And
I've even had people that have hit me up after, maybe I saw them, they got tattooed, great, and it's been like 3-4 years since, they got another tattoo. The time has come. They want to, do another piece. Awesome, great. I've even had them hit me up and say, listen, what I like. I want to get an upper left arm half sleeve, draw it. Okay, cool, great. I already know what you like. I already know what direction you want to head in. I already know what kind of imagery you're drawn to. I already know, all of this information. Cool, not a problem. When did you want to come in?
Yeah.
And it's all
Love it.
there. And part of the reason why I'm so neurotic about filing everything, keeping notes and stuff like that, and it at one point in time was one of my biggest weaknesses, and I've turned it into one of my bigger strengths, is the fact that I forget fucking everything.
I
I
envy
do.
that, man.
I do.
It's
I
amazing
can't,
that
unless I look at those notes, I can recall the conversation. and I can say, oh yeah, they talked about this, they like this, they wanted it to look similar to this, but not quite as busy. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to be like, okay, so remind me of our conversation. What did we talk about before?
I still do that.
And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be
Yeah.
that artist that doesn't
Mhm.
pay attention and doesn't treat their clients with that level of respect. I want to
Yeah.
be the artist that people turn around to and say, hey, you know what I like? I'm ready for my next piece.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Nice.
You know what? That's so in because that's gonna happen. You know, like that they're gonna say, Jason knows what I like. How I could never go to anyone else because he knows things about me that I don't even know.
Right.
And he know, yeah, that's brilliant. Okay, all right. So where do you keep? All right. So let's say Joe Blow comes in. He needs to create a client profile, whatever. During a consultation, you're asking them all these questions. Where do you put the answers? Are you just just have like a little like where
Right
do
on my
you
iPad.
maybe for their like in Procreate, you'll create like a this is Elizabeth's
You can do
file
that. There's any number of note-taking apps that are out there. I'm using one called Notes Plus.
Mhm.
And I like Notes Plus because I can go through and let's see, resources. Where was it? It's on my iPad. Notes Plus. I gotta turn this on. For some reason, this wasn't.
And also, I like Seth, your approach to where like you'll have a consultation with the client and then you'll have them come back just to kind of as a refresher to say, hey, this is what I'm working on. Let me, get a measurement, you know what I mean? And then it just kind of re-incites and reinvigorates the whole process for them. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and that actually came from trial and error. The first part of that is misplacing tracings that were taken 3 months beforehand. And the second was, when they're booking out that far, I like to allow them to have their idea be malleable, that they can come back and say, I kind of changed my mind. I don't want to do maple leaves. I want oak leaves, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, no problem. Like I always say to them, it gives you time to, if you have anything else that you want to add or not have in there, we have the conversation at that point. And, just make sure that we're both on the same page with it. That's it. It's not a lack of, trying to not do the homework. It's just that I know that if I go too far down one road, one of us may end up being disappointed. So it's better just to hit the. Now Jason has the ability to be able to have that conversation at length with somebody, and put that time aside for them where, he can isolate that conversation, take those notes. If I did that, I feel like I would still be too nervous to not at least reach out to them again, a few weeks prior to the appointment and say, hey man, I'm drawing this up. Just want to make sure you're still getting X, Y, and Z,
Yeah, so this is kind of the way that I've got everything organized, and I've got different folders within this app, and I know that you can't really see it.
Damn, son, you need to get like a medal for all that. That is
so
incredible.
I've got appointments for 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, any future appointments coming up, for next year. I'll create a folder for that. And I can go through and I can say, where's a good one? This guy, Tyler, right? Tyler wanted an American flag sleeve, like half sleeve. So I'll go through and I can put reference images that he sends me in here. And here's some of the questions: full sleeve or half, right or left arm, anything else included? How big do I need to make it? Where is it going to go? A little above the elbow, below the elbow, lower left arm. I have to work around an existing tattoo. And I'll go through and I'll take some notes on that. And then that way I can always look back at that. You know, if he wants to come in and extend off of that tattoo, there's all my notes from that discussion. You know, and it's like, okay, cool. You had a very specific idea in mind of what you wanted. Great. Don't have to go into too much more with you. This is what we can do. You know, and I'll write everything down just because I don't want to forget anything. And I want people to know that what they're telling me is valued.
You got to show me those tricks, man, in Puerto Rico. Like, I would love to, because I take notes the same way in Procreate, but then I don't drop those notes into another program and do it like that. Like, so that I always got to scroll through my Procreate to find where their consult was, you know. So
right. So one thing I would recommend doing right off the bat there, create a folder in Procreate with just consultation notes. And then that way you can go through, and then that way you can title each document with whoever the consult is and the date, and then that'll allow you to sift through it very quickly.
Love that. So good, man. That's excellent advice. Amazing. Yeah, definitely gotta get on that.
So create a folder in Procreate for consultation.
Yeah.
And you could just have a page or.
Yeah. So if I was going to go through, I would create, say, here's one blank document, right, that I just created. Maybe I'll create a second one. This way I can drop them in together. Say these are consultation notes. These first two on the upper left, press and hold, and you can drag it right on top of the other one. When you release, it'll create what's known as a stack. This stack I can title consultation notes. Boom. Now I've got a folder in Procreate with just consultation notes.
Oh, so the stack acts as a folder.
Correct.
Okay.
Stack's just another word for folder in Procreate. And it's one way to keep things organized. I do the same thing. Like, these are all my designs for Puerto Rico that I'll be bringing down. I've got a whole folder of like Japanese waves and wave half sleeves, collab sheets, large scale project ideas. You know, so if I'm trying to find something or a back piece, or, you know, I'm trying to come up with an idea for a full sleeve or a side panel, it's right there in my large project folder. I've got original art and design concepts. I've got a whole one for potential appointments. I've got one for other art projects and critiques, collab sheets. I've got convention stencils. So I've got one of the little S8 stencil printers that I bring with me to every convention. So anytime someone needs me to run off a stencil for them, I have them airdrop me the file, and I keep all of that in here. You know, like, here's the stencil that I ran for Anthony Tex when he tattooed my hand. You know, and I've got that, and I can look back on that. I've got one for Harlan Kantner, Devin Cooley, you know, Nick Kaiser. Some of these are mine that I drew. You know, I'll draw different stuff for different people and print them out at a convention. That all goes into a folder. I've got a whole appointment folder that's got over 1,000 different documents in it. And that's, you know, my every day someone walks in and wants their mother's handwriting or grandmother's handwriting, or, you know, whatever. Create a new document in my appointment stack. Boom, it's right there. So I can always look back at that, and I can always say, oh, okay, here's this document for this person on this date and time.
Love that.
You know, because you can filter it too. So I can go through and, you know, basically pull all of these up. I can see all the sizes. Granted, all of these don't have names because I'm just drawing those up for Puerto Rico, so I know it's all in one spot. But you can actually go through, and there's ways to filter things, and you can organize things in certain ways. It's a really great way to do things. To me, if I'm not organized, if I'm sitting down and I'm saying, okay, I need to find this. And it's happened so many times in the past where it's going to take me 30, 40, 50 minutes, maybe even an hour and a half sometimes to find a specific document, specific notes, or anything like that. I got tired of wasting that time and not being able to pull that right up and be prepared for people. So I figured out a system that works for me to go through and make sure that I can do that. Everything is there, set, ready to go, and it's easy to find. Because once again,
And that
I
one
forget
stack,
everything.
and that
Yeah, you
one
can't.
stack has all of your consultations in it. I'm sorry, to interrupt.
Well, I take all my consultation notes in a different app. I don't like to use Procreate for that because Procreate does not automatically sync to the cloud to store everything. But the other app that I use specifically for consultations does.
Nice.
So that way I've always got a backup of that. And I can pull those up, on my laptop if need be. Say, heaven forbid, knock on wood, my iPad dies. That's okay. Everything's backed up in the cloud except for my most recent stuff. So it's something that I've just found works for me. But I also like the fact that with the other program, it gives me like the nice like letter lines and all that stuff. And I've got an area for pictures already set up, and I've got an area for other notes. And I can continuously scroll through different pages, and it keeps everything organized as far as date, time, and then I just title the document with the name. It just makes it easier for me to find things. Other people create stacks for each individual client, and that's another way you can do it is if you create a stack for each client that comes in, boom, right there. There's your consultation notes. There's your sketches, your thumbnails, your final line drawings for whatever projects they want to do. It's another easy way to go through and organize things for easy access. The problem I personally found when trying that method out is that you can't do stacks within stacks. So there's no way to do like a subfolder. So it's hard for me to keep things organized in that kind of an aspect. Because I want to be able to go through and sort by date to figure out, I had 7 or 8 consultations last week and I forget the guy's name. Let me go through because I remember I did the consultation on this date at this time because it was put into my Google Calendar. So I know exactly when that happened. But I know I just forget the guy's name. So let me just sort by date and time real quick. Makes it a lot easier for me to do that than it is for me to go through and try to remember the person's name. Because, when you talk to all kinds of people all day long about different things and they all, oh man, I really want to come in and get something else done. Cool. Great. So does, 12,000 other people. Not saying you're not special, but like, if I'm dealing with the same situation over and over again, I want to be organized with it. So I'm going to find a way that works best for me.
That brings it back to the beginning, finding out what works best for you as an individual, right?
Right.
Like try and just be consistent and that we're respectful to the client and what it is that they're asking and what their experience in a tattoo shop may or may not be. But, definitely be kind to yourself by knowing what your parameters of comfortability are.
Now, I will say that I am slowly but surely going to start moving over to a system where I as well do a form and have people fill out a form for what they want to get done. Hopefully, once I can finish creating and designing my new website, I'll be able to have that on there and that will link them out to either a Google form or some other type of data collection where I can have people go through and say, hey, I'm trying to get a new tattoo. This is what I'm looking for. I want to put it in this spot. I want it to be black and gray. And I want to be able to have an area where people can upload their reference images for what it is they're looking for. then that way that can all be exported into, whatever type of software, or exported into, some other type of way to go through and filter that and sort that and organize that. But that's something that is coming down the pipeline, hopefully sooner rather than later, because I think that would, really just help keep things organized to an even bigger level.
Google Docs has a free app for that, or not free app,
Yes.
but like yeah.
Well, they've got Google Docs
use.
and Google Forms.
Yep.
Google Forms is also great because you can send someone a link. Here, fill out the form, and tell me what days and times work best for you. Give me a brief description of what you want to get done, and then that will email me the responses for that form. It's another way to do it. And I will be moving over to that kind of a method in the very near future. Once again, my goal right now is just to get my website together so that I can get that launched. And then I'll be working on the forms, because I want to incorporate the forms into the website. Like have a button that says, click here for the consultation form, and just have that way I can put a button on there and just says, hey, cool, I'm so-and-so, I want to get tattooed by you, here's what I want.
Right.
Not that it does take away a little bit of the personal nature of things, but I would still like to be able to get them in for that consultation, to have those discussions, build that client profile, and be able to turn around and say to them, oh, okay, I know what this person likes. I know what their style is. I know what it is that, they're visually drawn to. Cool. Not going to take too much for me to go through from here. Just fill out the form real quick. That way I've got an idea of location, and I'll get started cracking on it.
Nice. Jason, that gorilla looks awesome.
Yeah, I'm probably going to end up layering in some purples into like the actual like head and face. But I've already got like some pretty nice leaves. I was up pretty late the last few nights just drawing and sketching different ideas for Puerto Rico. Nice. I really like the combination of the like reddish orange and then a bright orange and this bright lime green bold line going around the other edge of it.
Yeah.
I'm just coming up with different stuff in different ways and different styles. I've already got a whole bunch of like Japanese kind of stuff together for it. My goal is to have 15 or so new designs set and ready to go for Puerto Rico. So I've been actively trying to work on them as much as I can over the last like week and a half,
nice.
in hopes that they're together enough in time that I can bring them with me. And if not, I'll print them out and I'll have those as designs ready to go at the studio.
Yeah, man. I got a couple in the box. I'll have a few more ready to go. That looks cool though.
Yeah, this fall especially has been a bit rough business wise. I work at a studio with a lot of different artists. And some of us are walk-in artists. I tend to have a bit more of a steady clientele base, but every now and then I pick up walk-ins and stuff like that. But it's like people, from what I've seen, aren't really spending too much money right now. So I've had a little bit of extra time on my hands to go through and work on drawings. So yeah, I'm just trying to be as prepared for this show as humanly possible. Now, there are old school artists that are out there that, and I've heard guys like Joe Cap go through and make this comment before, where they've heard that, there's a lot of younger artists out there that, they're starting to prepare for these tattoo conventions months in advance and stuff like that. He's like, what happened to the old days when, you used to just show up and people will come up to you and get whatever, They tell you what they want. You got to draw it up on the spot. And it's like, that's great. And that still happens.
Sure.
But if I can push designs that I really want to tattoo, why wouldn't I want to do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's enough room for both, but
Oh, absolutely.
you're definitely going to benefit from at least having stuff in your canon, like ready to fire. Um, the lip on that gorilla, those little like splits are awesome. You should vary the distance between them, some of them, or add a couple extra little ones in there.
Yeah, it's a
On
good
the top
idea.
lip, yeah, that looks fucking banging though. Like that shadow on the bottom side, it looks like the real muzzle. It's awesome. It's really good.
Yeah, a lot of this comes down to I actually have a document I created out here. So this was like a concept and a stock photo that I saw that I really, really liked. And I remember sitting back and studying it and trying to pick apart different things and coming up with different ideas. But I wanted to draw it in my own way. And I wanted to come up with something unique,
Yeah.
So
because now you're being inspired by it. You're not painted into a corner of having to do exactly what's there. You're making it your own. You're making it unique. And that's how you get your own flavor with it, man.
Exactly.
It's banging. Like I like your drawing better than the picture. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? So yeah.
Well, it's like I said, it comes down to studying. I noticed all the ridges on the lip, on both the top and bottom lip. So it's like, okay, well, why don't I go through and why don't I exaggerate that and really create deep, deep grooves to create that kind of a texture, but in a more simple way.
Yeah, and it reinforces the contour, like the shape, like which direction, which plane is moving in which direction, right? The bottom of the lip moves in towards the mouth, But
I think I'm really starting to try to emphasize that with a lot of the stuff I do, really over exaggerating highlights, shadow areas, contours, how things move, how things flow. And I'm finding that every time I do that, I'm getting a far more, not just more of a dynamic kind of value scale, but it's becoming far, far easier to actually read as a visual image.
Yeah, you exaggerate those things, and it makes it even better. Like doing a black and white, Bernini tattoo. It's like all that hyper exaggeration of light and dark. You hyper exaggerate the form, but keeping it still realistic in its rendering. And it's like it becomes outstanding for a tattoo.
Yeah, and I'm really trying to push more of like a graphic or a visual kind of graphic nature with a lot of this stuff. And one way to do that is create more dynamic contrast, create super, super hard edges, create the real dynamic kind of highlights, real dynamic shapes for shadows. And I have to actually thank Jake Meeks for this. But just looking at using each one of these shadows as like a shape, right?
Shout out to Jake Meeks.
Yeah. From the Fireside Tattoo Network, Jake, you are a wizard. But I remember having a discussion with him about how everything just boils down to shapes. It's, this little shadow underneath the lip, that's just a shape. What shape is that and how does that interact with the other shapes? And by going through and over exaggerating those shapes and the contrast of those shapes, that's allowing me to go through and create this more dynamic kind of visual imagery.
Yeah.
Really, really hard dark edges here for where that lip curls over. And then taking these shapes, these rounded shapes, blending those right in, but fading them out before they hit the next shape.
Yep. Yeah, letting the contour of the line define the texture and the shape, how it's quilted.
Yeah. But
Also,
making
can you
sure that,
imagine just seeing one of those motherfuckers in real life,
no,
like in the wild? Dude, they are so strong. It is ridiculous.
yeah, it's pure muscle.
Yeah, bears are the same way. These
Oh
idiots are like,
yeah.
I think I could take a bear on. If a bear can't, black bear's a little bit smaller. Thing would have your leg for lunch.
Yeah, even baby bears would destroy a human.
Yeah, and gorillas specifically, like primates, like they're nasty, man. They'll kill just for the sake of kill. They don't even want to eat you.
Some
They'll
will.
just
You're absolutely
murder
right.
you. You rip your balls off.
Ugh. No
They
thanks.
do. No, they do.
Just
They catch
because.
yeah, that's legit. They're chimps. Go watch Chimp Nation, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've been on
But
a big Nat Geo kick lately, so
how fun is it to watch programs like that, like those nature things, and just sit there and draw what you're seeing or be inspired by any of that stuff? It's
yeah.
kind of like reading old mythology. You're reading these old books or old stories of whatever style you want it. It can be anything, right? Like from naval stuff like the Philadelphia experiment to Japanese stuff or, old Western thing, like
No, that's the
whatever.
greatest.
Yeah, being inspired by that to draw something is just like, it's insane. There's a guy, I forget oh man, he's out in Middle PA, Scott and Jason. He's done the convention, the convention, what do you call it? The Allentown one, Bethlehem. It used to be Bethlehem.
Scott Bramble.
Scott Bramble. Yep, you know exactly where I was going with that. Dude,
Yep.
he's one of my favorite drawers of all time in tattooing. His artwork, he has this whole thing where he's like inspired by old stories, like old Western ghost stories and stuff like that. And he draws it like makes this artwork and draws this whole image where the whole piece tells one story. There's so many different things going on. Sometimes there's inlaid little windows that have a different part of the story. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, God, the figures are so dynamic and the subject matter is so rich and the picture is full with all this stuff. And then you talk to him and he's got this whole explanation. Oh, it comes from, this story from, the mid 1800s where I'm like, God, like just to have the wherewithal to read that stuff. It's like the same way, our favorite, music artist might be inspired to write a song, or writer writes a poem about something that they read about that happened years ago. Is that Kali?
That's Kali.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. So anyway, I like that. I like when people are, inspired by that kind of thing and drawing stuff like that. It's when you see somebody doing something like you're doing that gorilla, it's an action shot of it, but you're taking the time to, kind of add a little bit of your own illustration to it, and it still has that power to it. It's still got
Right.
that kind of emotion.
I'll tell you this, man. One of the most difficult things I've been trying to figure out how to do is frame things out so that they're more like one-shot tattoos,
Yeah.
but still maintain visual flow and visual integrity with them on a much smaller scale. And that has been proving to be quite challenging, just to create different unique ways of doing that. Like if I go back to my gallery, I came up with this tooth a few days ago and finished this guy up. And I was like, okay, cool. Like this could work. How do I like move your eye around it? I didn't want to do just a tooth, and I didn't want to do just a
Right.
tooth with like a teal circle. I want to move your eye around the whole piece. So how could I do that effectively? And I played around with a whole bunch of different ways. And I finally settled on like opposing leaves, even though I might go back through and adjust the angle of those bottom leaves. And then I got into more
Yeah.
like decorative ornamental frameworks.
That one's great. I love that.
Maybe I could do something like that. That could be cool. To kind of frame it out so that it's more of a one-shot design. Then the other night it kind of clicked and I was like, okay, what if I did both, right? So I drew a cat
Yeah.
skull because who doesn't love cat skulls? And kind of took a lot of what I was building off of from each of those, combine them, and then now I've got some great one shot. Everything's framed out. I can do this at a smaller scale. Simplify some of the shadows and highlights a little bit, but it's still going to visually move your eye around the piece from the teeth down at the bottom all the way up and over, kind of ending at these leaves that are coming up following the jawline. It's all being more self-contained, which allows it to stand out as a nicer one-shot kind of tattoo. But I've got all kinds of stuff. I've got, Japanese dragon. That one's coming down with me. Little flowers with like some psychedelic design in the background. I've been working on this human heart for a little bit. Kind of took a break from it because I didn't want to overwork it, and I have a tendency of overworking things. So I took a break from that one. Like the skull idea, so I threw some Japanese waves with it. Playing around with textures textures are something that I've never been super good at. So a lot of this is practice with texture, especially the contrast between the smooth texture of the waves and then this rough, bumpy texture of the skull. Playing around with different things like that and how you can get different looks and different visual appeals with different things. That's kind of why I really am excited to do this gorilla. Hopefully someone gets it at the Puerto Rico show. I think with the levels of textures that I'm putting in here, between the very graphic look and a lot of the smooth texture in the leaves, I'll probably end up doing some different like hairline textures, in certain parts of like the cheek to create the look of fur. As it's actually going around. And I think that'll contrast nicely with the very smooth gradients on these leaves. But once again, I'm trying to move more towards like a very kind of simplified graphic style for a lot of what I'm doing. And that's a lot of this is playing into that.
That the tiger that you did coming out of that kind of Art Deco design, I think works really well and subtly because of the kind of like that hint towards the figure eight thing, right? Where you have the same design, flip flop, one vertical, going up and one vertical going down or moving in that direction. But that shape kind of being in front of or on the same plane as the tiger on the backside and then going behind the face on the other side. These little tricks like that go a long, long, long way.
Well,
I think, in any design.
So I call that kind of like an out of bounds style, because you're literally moving something from one plane into another plane of visual like field. It starts out and it always reads this way, where you always have one border that comes in front of the design. Then you have your middle ground with your subject matter. Then you have the other border of the design that fades back behind your subject matter. And that creates instantly 3 visual levels of depth. And it's a very, very, very easy way to create that sense of depth, just by varying where things sit and making sure that you've got certain things that are outside of that visual field. But I also like it because it keeps it contained. Those frames, those Art Deco frames and little things like leaves and whatnot, help frame things out. So if you're trying to work at a smaller scale, especially for things like conventions and shows, don't get me wrong, I could easily take this gorilla head and fade this out, and that could still be cool, but it would look, my eye would want to keep going with it. Where's the rest of it? Whereas if you frame it out, your eye immediately says, oh, it starts here, it ends here, and it makes it more visually appealing in that kind of a sense. The way our eye works when it comes down to visual appeal is quite fascinating, to be honest with you. And it's something I've always been, intrigued by and curious about. And that's just going through, and why do people find themselves drawn to certain images? What about it? What about specific images like Caravaggio, right? How he can move your eye and get you to look exactly where he wants you to look every single time without fail, to the point that you might not even notice things going on in the background. That kind of stuff to me is mind blowing. Like, that's wizard status level 10. But you take some time and you look at it and you start to pick things apart and you start to understand things, like their formula that they use to get you to look at one specific point. And once you start to try to break that down and understand that, it can help you take whatever it is you're creating to a whole different level of dimension. And so that's something, something I've been focusing on and trying to be better at. Just trying to improve little things here and there, little bit every day, can really, really be helpful. So that's just kind of the way that I'm looking at things. But that also comes down to preparation. There's a reason why I draw so much every single night, even if it's just doing like a little sketch over a reference image, to try to tweak things out or understand values and shapes. Sometimes I'll sit down and I'll just practice cheekbone structures, getting the values correct and figuring out the shapes in the cheek. Where do certain planes fall? Can help you understand faces and help you execute faces and stuff like that a bit easier. So it all adds up, and it's all about preparation. So the next time someone comes in and they want a tattoo of a face, I can turn around and say, oh yeah, I got you. And I can understand where that light's going to hit and how that value is going to create those shapes and create that form.
I find that there's a lot of value in doing, like, how sometimes you end up like going down a rabbit hole online looking at stuff, or you're researching a project or something like that. You're like, oh, this might make a cool piece for later. If anybody out there getting into tattooing, or you've been in it for years, if you haven't done this yet, or maybe you haven't done it in a while, I highly recommend doing it. It's kind of like a yoga for the tattoo mind, the creative mind. Is you have an extra hour in the middle of the day, or half hour, something like that, pull out 2 or 3 books that you haven't gone through in a while, right? If you have these books around, and just flip through them. I found reference that I could have used for a dozen tattoos over the past year that I just forgot that I had, or I never realized that they were inside of these books. Like, it's one thing when you're specifically searching something on Google, but I come from an era where we collected a ton of literature, a ton of books and reference books. And if you needed something, that's where you had to go, right? The more you had, the better, because the less trips you were taking to Borders or Barnes and Noble or the library. But I found it to be highly useful and effective to just go through some of these books. And some I acquired it at conventions where I was like, oh, I'll definitely use this. And let's say the 20 books I've bought in conventions over the last decade, maybe 3 or 4 of them had steady, heavy rotation in what it is that I'm doing. And I looked at some of those other ones and I was like, God, I can't believe I forgot about this. This stuff is so like rich and worthy of being considered for tattoos and subject matter and information, or maybe even if it's a small thing, like I mentioned earlier the Fudo. I have a bunch of reference for that, but I've only used it once for reference for a Fudo tattoo. I can't tell you how many times I've used it for reference for a ritual object, or flames, or how to position a dragon claw, or whatever it is, nitpicking small things out of a larger piece and using that. So just out there,
on that
great
note,
exercise.
Seth, at this past Paradise Gathering, I was fortunate enough. You've heard of the blood work books?
Sure.
bloodwork bodies, bloodwork sleeves, and all
Yes.
that stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Currently out of print. Good luck finding them. Occasionally they pop up on eBay or whatever. But they're pretty hard to find. And I was looking for a copy of Bloodwork sleeves for a long time to complete my collection because I already had a copy of Bloodwork bodies. And I was very fortunate that someone at the Paradise Gathering this year actually was selling brand new, still plastic wrapped copies for their original list price.
No shit.
Yeah. So I snagged up one of my grail items that I've been on a quest for quite some time. But what I've actually started doing, Seth, and I do this little by little here and there, every time I get to a point where I don't have too much going on with appointments or art projects or anything like that. What I've actually started doing is taking the time. I'll sit down with a scanner and some of those reference books, and I'll start scanning them so that way I can throw them on my iPad. They take up less room. And now I can go through, and I've always got that sketchbook or reference book or whatever with me. Should I ever need to go back through, look through it, or say, oh, here's an idea. Here's, a good reference for this, rather than having to go through and actually be like, oh man, I wish I had this book with me at this show. It's, I wish I had it because I could really use it for, something that I remembered was in there. But if I have it scanned and I have it on my iPad, it's right there. I can pull it up.
Do you remember that it's there?
So I do have quite a few reference books in my iPad. So sometimes it is difficult to remember what's where. But it's one of those situations where, to me, you can never have a big enough library of different things to look through.
I agree.
Sometimes I'll look through books that I haven't looked through in a while, much like yourself, and just see what's there, see what I'm forgetting about.
Yeah.
Do you use an actual scanner or do you take pictures?
An actual scanner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How about crap hounds? You ever look at those?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Write that down. Any tattooers out there, if you can get a hold of these crap hound books, they're magazines. They are filled with copyright-free stock images of tons of stuff, and they're all organized by like maybe each magazine will have, I don't know, like 2 to 4 different types of subject matter. They have one that's all filled with Americana and religious stuff. They have one that's filled with, images of men and women or whatever.
Oh wow.
All of the things that you can possibly imagine.
So
if you look
Illustrated
one up
Monthly
online,
does that.
Okay.
A company called Illustrated Monthly does that, and I've got quite a few of their books,
Nice.
both print and digital, because they do actually provide digital ebooks as reference, for their reference books as well, and it's all copyright-free images that they put out there, so you don't have to worry about it.
Nice.
I mean, I still try to draw stuff on my own, but
oh yeah, and I wouldn't a lot of this stuff. I mean, even though it could be used, it's really just for for inspiration. But I mean, some of the pages have one image. Some of them will have 70 images on one page. It's
crap hound.
Crap hound. You can look them up. I think there's maybe that I'm familiar with. There's probably 5 issues of it. And that's it. And there may be more, and I'm just ignorant to it, but I know of at least 4 or 5 of them. They're just outstanding and always fun. When you're like, I want to draw something, I don't know what to draw. Just flip through one of those.
Yeah, here's so I've got several different ones. This one's from Illustrated Monthly, and it's basically just
nice
brushstroke paintings, Japanese style birds, flowers.
It's awesome.
It's one of many that I keep in my digital library. I can't show you the whole digital library because I do also have different art model like pose books that have been put out, and YouTube would probably flag those in a heartbeat.
You talking about
Okay.
these?
Yep.
What?
Oh, look at that. 9. Yeah, those are crap hounds.
Oh yeah, there you
Cool.
go.
Yeah,
All right.
they're wild.
Yeah, this is another good one from Illustrated Monthly. Same
There
basic
you go.
concept,
Yeah, I love that stuff, man.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
then
a
you
lot of
like,
vintage.
yeah, you just it's like it's inspiration for a mind that can't settle on something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
old
can
school
put.
hands for signs,
Oh, you
different
know what a good
crests.
exercise would be? Here's a good exercise. Pick like random, like, pick 3 different pages from 2 different publications, or 2 different versions of that book, of the Illustrated Monthly or a Crap Pound or whatever, stuff that has all that crazy stuff in there. Just randomly name 2 pages and then pick 3 different things from those pages and try and put them together.
Ooh, that's a great
That is cool.
exercise.
Like Tattoo
That would
Fight
be a
Club.
great exercise. Yeah, I like so crap hounds are good. Illustrated Monthly is a good one. There's
I'm gonna
all
get on that
different
Illustrated
types,
Monthly.
all different types of Illustrated Monthly is a black hole, dude.
Yeah.
You can go in there and you can be like, oh, I'm just gonna see what's there, and you'll end up, for their price of their digital books, you'll end up getting like 12 or 13 of them at one time for like $30.
Oh
I
my
love
God.
it.
Some of them are
12 for
dirt
$30?
if you can catch them on sale, yeah.
Dang.
Sometimes they'll have half price discounts on stuff, and you can get like digital books, digital like image books like that for $1.99, $2, $3.
Killer.
Damn.
Yeah, super, super cheap. And they've got every subject matter you can imagine. From Art Deco and Art Nouveau stuff to skulls, witchy stuff. They've got books on like demonic imagery. If you've got people that are into like doing dark kind of tattoos, like Paul Booth kind of stuff. They've got something for everyone on that site, man. I swear.
Hey, what you were talking about earlier, Jason, the being able to do a design that's like a one-off, like self-contained thing, but it's still rich in movement, or it's got some sort of like space involved in it, right? A couple of my favorites. I mean, you mentioned Joe Cap earlier. Him, Jimmy Litwalk, Tony Ciavar, like that whole style, Kelly Doty, or however you pronounce her last name, like
Gunner.
that. Yeah, Gunner, all that stuff, right? Like it's crazy. Alex Fish, like they're all these like self-contained little pieces, but they just have a lot of rich visual value to it, and that stuff's always rad to look at and always inspiring, and it doesn't have to be overly complicated to hit the mark and hit it perfectly.
Right. Yeah, sometimes less is more.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've been trying to remember a lot more lately is, a lot of it's about simplifying the process, simplifying your images. If you can do the same amount with less complications and less detail, but still get the message across, still get the image across, still go through and translate that kind of visual language, using, say less elements for less, more simplified visual language, for lack of a better way to put it. It's that to me is going to make a much more strong image.
Yeah.
It's going to make things a lot easier for the mind to comprehend what it is, how it looks, and what's going on in it. And I find,
Yeah, you're not.
and studies have shown, if it's too complex, people aren't going to want to look at it.
Yeah, you got to let the individual ingredients speak strongly for themselves. You start overpowering each one with something else, and doesn't have the same effect.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm getting into an area here in Connecticut where it's going to start cutting out. So I'm gonna have to sign off here.
Go for it. We don't want to hear the Seth remix.
Yeah, it's terrible. Every other Sunday.
Mixtape coming soon.
Yeah, the worst. Um, my name is Seth Mushrush, and you guys can follow me. Anybody out there, follow me online on Instagram at Seth Mushrush. My website, Seth Mushrush Art, will be back up soon. Just adding new things to it. I currently tattoo full time at Baker Street Tattoo and Media, PA, where you can find me occasionally up in Massachusetts at the Gallery Tattoo Studio in Concord. I'll be at the Puerto Rico Tattoo Convention with Mr. Handsome and host of this podcast, Jason Leeser. So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to getting down there and being inspired by all of that. And yeah, and I'll be at the Philly show also. So anybody looking to get artwork out there or anything like that, feel free to reach out.
Actually, Seth, so I know Baker Street's getting they usually do a booth or two down there, right?
Yeah, we split a booth usually with Old City Tattoo because Jay owns both of them. But we line up with all those other shops so that we kind of, us Black Vulture and a bunch of other shops kind of do a whole row. And to help each other out with space, we just add or we take down the barricades in between, and it's a good time, man. It's a good party. Are you thinking about joining?
I mean, I've been looking for someone to split a booth with for Philly. And a lot of the people I've reached out to either can't make it, are already working it, or whatever. And I was debating on whether or not I wanted to just do it solo this year. Or if I wanted to try to, keep searching around for other people. So, but I mean, if you guys end up having a spot available, let me know.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
I'll let
ask
you know.
around
And I mean,
find out.
I think usually when we set that up, I think Jay usually talks to Troy to try and get everybody in the same row, or he just kind of sets us all up in the same space.
Gotcha.
So I'll definitely say something to him about that.
Yeah, if there's availability, cool. If not, that's cool too. I might just end up rocking it solo.
No, it'd be cool to have you down there though on the same row. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a fun time. So, I mean that particular show, there's so many people there. You want to try to be around people that you want to be around because it's great to meet new people and stuff like that. But shit, man, I can't tell you 1 year that I've been at that convention since it's been at the convention center where I get to see everybody I want to see. There's always, I'm like, I leave and I'm like, oh shit, they were there. I just completely missed out.
Happens every year, man. Every year.
Yeah.
I remember the 1 year Andy Chambers was there, and I just remember walking past on Sunday, seeing a couple of his business cards, and I'm like, man, this sucks.
Yep.
Yeah. So
happens all the time. But all right, guys. Yeah. Well, thanks a lot. It was a great conversation. Great topic today, man.
Yeah.
All right,
thank you as always for joining in. It's always a blast having you here, man.
Awesome,
drive safe, get home safe, and
you got it.
Yeah, I'll be in touch.
I'll talk to you. Sounds good, man. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.
You too. Bro. Take care. And it's down to 2. What are you working with, man?
So
is
mainly
that liquid acrylic?
Yeah, this is liquid acrylic. I kind of took some advice listening to you the last time we had a podcast, where you just said you would go on Pinterest, and you would see something that kind of caught your eye, and you'd create a piece of artwork out of it. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. I just went on Pinterest and typed in neo-traditional, and I saw something like similar to this, and I was like, dang, that's dope. So I just kind of recreated it.
Yeah.
And just turn it into a painting. Hopefully I can do it as a tattoo one day.
Well, that's what a lot of it comes down to is getting inspiration, coming up with ideas. Doesn't matter if those ideas have been done or not. Sometimes it's just about taking them, turning around, studying them as you're doing it, and then coming up with your own way of doing it, understanding. Right. So it was an exercise we used to do back when I was in art school. we actually spent a few months doing master painter reproductions where we actually had to sit down and reproduce an original or a painting from a master artist, whether it was Caravaggio or Da Vinci or Rembrandt or, you know, Peter Paul Rubens, whoever. We had to go through, and our entire job was to go through and try to reproduce it as accurately as possible. Now, granted, we were doing it in a very condensed time frame. So, and the professors knew that we weren't going to, you know, really succeed too much. But the whole point behind that exercise was to go through and, number one, teach us an appreciation for the skills involved in doing that. And number two, to help us understand the different types of artistic elements going on in it and why certain things look the way that they did. You know, if you look at any Caravaggio painting, there's always parts of it that basically, for lack of a better term, they look like they're half-assed. It looks like he just took like a 1-inch wide brush, just did a couple of brush strokes and said, yeah, I'm not messing with this part anymore. I'm done. You know, but what that does is it creates a lack of detail in that area, forces your eye to look at the areas that are detailed. You know, it's one of the many different tricks that he used to get you to look where he wanted you to look. But there's something to be said for reproducing something that you've seen. It helps you understand it better. Whether it shapes, whether it's, you know, color blends, or why did they use this color here? It also helps you understand the medium that you're using a bit more. What is this yellow? Is this yellow the right yellow that I'm looking for? Is this the right brown that I'm looking for? How does that interact with this yellow? You know, is this a red-based brown? Is it an orange-based brown? Is it a green-based brown? You know, and I've come across all of those colors when I've been painting before. You know, and sometimes you don't know until you try it. And because you don't know, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to give this a shot and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, well, then maybe I'll start over.
Right.
You know, but that's kind of the way that it goes. I remember I did a painting of a heart with a dagger through it. And I finished the painting and I clear coated it, but the clear coat ended up getting really, really fuzzy because I used a matte clear coat. And I overdid it on the clear coat. And what that ended up doing was basically destroying the image. And I was like, I'll just paint it again.
Shit.
I already did it once. I can do it again. So I literally went through and created it a second time. I had to. I wasn't about to give up on it.
Right.
I already had a frame for it. I just needed to finish the painting. You know, but that's kind of the way that certain things go. You know, it's an exploration in the medium and the subject. So I always tell people, like, listen, go back through, do a reproduction, find something that someone else did that you really admire and something that intrigues you or you want to learn more about. Try to reproduce it, figure it out. And that's one of the ways that you're going to go through and pick up on certain tricks, like little skin breaks and white outlines around certain things to help bring the focus to an edge. You know, little stuff like that can make or break an image. But yeah, dude, I still do it every now and then. I mean, right now I've got a couple of bigger paintings that I'm working on, but as far as small scale stuff, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
So,
Do you find that even, you know, because I don't even, do you find that the act of reproducing the painting, even though if you're not like consciously aware of the, you know, the little tricks of the trade that make the piece look like that, are you still learning even, you know what I'm saying?
oh, I'm still learning all the time. You know, for example, like I'll sit down and I'll look at things like Anthony Tex, or I'll look at some paintings by James Tex or Shane Ford or prints that I've picked up at different conventions. And I'll sit down and I'll just like stare at them and I'll pick them apart and I'll analyze them. Why does this look the way that it does?
Mm-hmm.
Where is the light falling? How does this texture get created? Why did they use this value here? Oh, because that's a tertiary color next to this one. So that's going to keep those in the same spot. And that's going to make this color over here appear a lot brighter. So sometimes I'll sit down and I'll just stare at something until I start to understand, why does it look that way? What made this have this much visual impact? So I still do that all the time, and I'm still picking up new stuff here and there from different things and different people. This whole concept that I'm getting into now with much stronger visual shape. I went back through and I started looking at a lot of the neo-trad artists that I really admire. A lot of people like Harlan Kantner, Devin Cooley, who I'm actually working in Puerto Rico with, as well as Seth. It's going to be myself, James Wisdom, and Devin Cooley.
Nice.
We're all four of us are sharing a double booth. So it's going to be an epic time. But I remember going back through and looking at some of the stuff Devin was doing and some of the stuff Harlan Kantner was doing. And I just remember sitting down and just like staring at a couple of images saying, okay, why do I like this? What tricks are they using? If it was an animal, are they doing each individual hair to create the texture? If it was say it was a lady head, right? What are they doing with the hair? How are they depicting the hair? Or what are they doing with the hands? Are they doing, little wrinkles on the tops of the knuckles? Or are they leaving those a lot more simplified? What about their color palette? Where's their contrast? How are they getting this kind of a look? So I do a lot of studying, a lot of investigating, and a lot of like analysis of these things that I want to know how to do better. Creating these these shapes that I'm doing here with the contrast on this gorilla head. This is basically utilizing a very fundamental principle of just high contrast and shape, right? But what it's doing is it's creating the value that I'm looking for in the most simplified manner possible. I'm not overcomplicating it with fur. I'm not, I might still add fur to it, but it's not overcomplicating anything, but it's getting the idea that light is hitting this cheek of this gorilla, and then that's curving in and then coming out into these folds on the neck. It's little subtle things like that. Now, if I were to compare that to the actual photograph that I looked at as inspiration, if I can get back to that. There we go. You don't see that kind of a very hard.
Oh yeah, you don't see that.
You don't. It's not there. Not unless you take, if I were to take this actual photograph and let's get rid of the color and let's increase the curves. You might see a little bit of it here. If you really increase that contrast a lot, you can kind of see, a shape here. Oh, let me do this in a different color so that you can kind of stand out. But you can kind of see there's a lighter area. There's a lighter area here. And then this is a shape in and of itself right here. So you can kind of see a little bit of it, but it's nowhere near as dramatic as the way I'm making.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So it's little things like that, picking things up, adding, excess contrast to create that shape and that value. That's kind of what I'm working on now. as far as an exercise goes to improve. It's and it's something that, you know, I know is only going to benefit me in the long run, but just focusing on little things like that. But if I hadn't ever looked at Devin's or Harlan's work or any of those, you know, phenomenal neo-trad kind of guys, I would never have picked up on the fact that a lot of them do that. Whether it's cheekbones, whether it's, you know, the area right at the bottom of the chin and how they over exaggerate the shadows, certain things like that, or noses, right? Like there's always if you look at a lot of neo-trad images, anything with a face, you'll oftentimes see like a very hard, abrupt line that curves at the tip of the nose and then drops down almost like you're doing chrome, right? Because it creates that mid-tone to light and then super dark to light kind of gradient that creates that rhythm so that nothing is ever really super dark to dark or light to light. So it creates that kind of visual rhythm. You know, you see it with a lot of different things, especially if you look at a lot of Canadian tattooers. They use that trick a lot to create that rounded value on the nose to really make it look like it's starting here and the light's hitting it, and then it's going into shadow and then down into your midtone. It automatically creates that dramatic kind of highlight and that dramatic kind of roundness to that object. Because if you break things down, right? Break things down into their super ultra basic shapes, right? You've got a triangular pyramid shape for the nose that's capped with a sphere that rounds out the front of the nose, right? So if you were going to shade a sphere and create that highlight, you would come up with something very similar.
Yeah, right.
You know, so when you break things down to their basic elements, a lot of that dramatic lighting, a lot of that dramatic contrast and shape is there. You just have to see it. You have to look for it. And you have to break things down in order to understand that. But once again, I would have never known had I not taken the time to sit back, study, examine, evaluate, you know, and understand why are they putting this kind of a shape in this spot? Why are they doing this amount of contrast in this area? You know, and it's like, oh, well, they're doing that because that creates this kind of a shape. And that's because if you break this down into its very basic element, that's what this shape is. So if you exaggerate that, it's going to look like that. It's like, oh, I get it now. You know, same thing here. I'll probably add a little bit of a harder kind of round shape and then fade that out. Now, granted, you can always make things more subtle, and you can always make things more or less prominent. But if it's going to be a high contrast kind of piece to really put a lot of value into it, and really exaggerate certain things, if you really want certain things to stand out, break things down into their basic shapes, over exaggerate that contrast, and it'll be there. I don't know. That's once again my 2 cents.
I mean,
that's what I'm picking
but
up on.
And that's kind of what I'm not going to say that I'm just interested in getting better, and I find that like I'm actually find that I'm going towards more of a traditional style.
Okay.
Which is, you know, just kind of just simplifying things, you know, breaking things down to their bare parts, you know, and I do find myself just determining the shapes of each of these individual, you know, pictures that I'm coming up with. And I'm saying, because I used to always want everything to be so ornate, you know,
Right.
so decorative and all of this stuff, but I'm finding that it's not if you can't read it, if you don't have any good legibility, then the ornateness is just
It
it
gets
doesn't
lost.
matter. It gets lost. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
the
you don't.
mind can't comprehend it if it's too complex.
Right. Right.
A great person to look at and the perfect example of stuff like that is Steph Bastian. I'm a huge fan of his work. He's out of Europe. He does a lot more of a traditional style,
Mhm.
but he's also trained as a portrait painter. So, but he went through this like renaissance a few years back where he decided to start trying to get everything down to its base elements to make it more legible so
What's
that
his
he could
name?
use Steph, Stef, Bastian. Bastin, I believe.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Very,
Yeah.
very simplified, very easy to read, visual language. It doesn't matter what he's trying to depict. He can depict, and there's images of, people wrestling spiders. And you can very easily tell that it's someone, or I think it was a demon actually, wrestling a spider. It's very easy. And he
Hmm.
makes things so easy to read and so legible, but they're still very ornate. They're not necessarily overcomplicated, but still ornate and complex, but still very, very easy to read. And that's one of the reasons why I really, really admire his work. Just realized my phone
Yeah.
was dying, so I'm going to plug that into charge.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, no,
but
his work is
yeah,
phenomenal.
and it's clean,
Hmm.
super clean. But once again, his thing was minimum elements to create the visual language necessary to convey what something is. And that blew my mind, right? Because I was always under the impression that, like, okay, well, people are going to understand what it is if I put this in. And, well, gorillas have hair, right? So I need to do all the hair in there. People are going to know it's a gorilla.
Right. Hmm.
People are going to know that it's a mermaid that has scales.
Right. Right.
People are going to understand what it is based on the shape. So why overcomplicate things? Why not make it easier for people to decipher what it is? Otherwise, people are going to get lost in all the detail. They're going to get lost in all the subtleties of like a chain link fence or beads on a necklace or texture in a skull. And sometimes
Hmm.
that can detract from what it is you're trying to convey.
Right.
And you don't want things to detract. You want things to just get the message across and complement it.
Hmm. So that's kind of where that's where I'm at with that. And so thanks for putting me onto that because that's really um exciting to see that type of work. And
Yeah.
everything seems to really a lot of artists seem to be going towards realism. A lot of the artists that are kind of that I'm around are going towards realism and black and gray realism, hyper
Oh, yeah.
realism, and I find that I am not going in that direction. I'm going in a different direction, and um, I find that I still, I mean, art is art, and nobody's going to tell me that my art is not going to be appreciated just because of it's not necessarily what's popular right now.
Right. And that's the thing. You get people out there that, they enjoy black and gray realism. Great. More power to you. Hopefully you're doing it for the right reasons and you're doing it because
Hmm.
that's the type of art that you love to do. And you're not just doing it because you think that that's what's super popular right now, because that may change in the next 5-10 years.
Right.
Not saying that that's not still going to be desired, but there's ebbs and flows and everything. Look at the 1990s, man. 1990s, everyone wanted huge, thick, black tribal.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
20 some odd years ago, yeah, great.
Right. No
Um,
problem. What you
but
want?
still, in 20 years, that's changed, and we got back to the complete and total opposite end of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from tribal, we got to biomech, and biomech spurned different people that were doing, you know, traditional neo-trad, and, you know, starting to get out of that more simplistic design aspects, um, you know, and starting to get into the more complex things. And I've got a feeling that over the next 15, 20 years, we're going to start to see a resurgence of simplicity.
Oh yeah, that's definitely going to happen. It
You know,
has to.
so it absolutely will. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm calling it now. Go ahead. You can put me down, place bets on whether or not I'm right. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care. But I've got a feeling that that's exactly where we're going to be heading, because people over the next 20 years are going to start to see the way that these super, super subtle transitions, color shifts, and stuff like that, people are going to start to see how they're healing and
Right.
what their longevity is like. And I mean, some people may still go for it. More power to you. If that's what you want to do, cool. But I think we're going to start to see a resurgence in people going back to a more simplistic way of doing things.
Right. And what's interesting is I think that I wonder what it is though. You know what I mean? Like I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of young tattoo artists. They come right out the gate and they do everything that they were told not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's because it looks good in the moment. It looks good on your Instagram. Oh, this is what we do, and then it's created a style. You know what I mean? But then, just like you said, it's like 10 years from now when all the tattoos kind of come up, and they're like, is it looking as good?" The old heads are just going to be like, "Yeah, see,
Yeah,
told
it's
you."
like we told you so. Yeah.
Right.
And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong. I've seen fine line black and gray tattoos, portrait tattoos that have been done that are 20 years old that still look absolutely incredible.
Absolutely.
Um,
And that's the thing. I'm not knocking what the young people, they are supposed to do that. They are
right,
supposed to come out of the gate and do all the shit that we told y'all not to do. That's how it works. You know what I mean? But this is also how it works. You know what
right.
I'm saying? Yeah.
And not only can we do something that gets the same message across, but if we have the option to go through and do it using a much more simplified language that takes a lot less time and is going to last far longer, then why would we not want to do that?
Right.
But it also
Right.
depends on the mindset of the person getting it done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's people out there that are like, yeah, this is what I want, you know, and I know I need to go and get it touched up every 5, 10 years. And, you know, I'm okay with that. And I know that's going to cost X amount of money. And it's like, well, all right. I mean, have fun with that. I'd rather get tattooed once and be done with it. That way I'm not continuously spending the money, and heaven forbid life doesn't work out and you no longer can afford to go and get things touched up, you know, every 5 to 10 years. Um, well, now you're walking around with a tattoo that doesn't look its best.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas my tattoo that I got done one time is going to look great for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and once again, I'm not knocking any styles. I'm not knocking any specific artists. Like I mentioned, there are great tattoo artists out there, and fine line black and gray stuff, if done correctly, will stand up very, very well. I remember seeing a portrait of Stevie Ray Vaughan on Bob Tyrell's leg, and it's still incredible. And it
Oh
still looks
wow.
immaculate. And it's 18
Mm-hmm.
years old, and you can still pick teeth out. You can
Oh
still
wow.
see the fretboard on a guitar,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's mind blowing how well it's held up over time. You know, it was also done by one of the best black and gray artists in the world, in my
Mm-hmm.
personal opinion. Someone that most people nowadays have never even heard of, which is a shame, but you know, that's the times we live in. But
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it's also run by social media. You know, people want that instant gratification of like, you know, this is, this is what I just did and it looks amazing. Doesn't really matter what it looks like in 10 years or so. We'll just get them in and we'll charge them to touch it up and all that stuff. But this looks incredible right now.
Right.
Cool. Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
More power to you. I would rather do tattoos that are going to last a bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also my perspective on it.
I mean, that's a good perspective. I mean, I think that, I think that is an educated perspective for somebody that's been tattooing for quite some time. That you're able to kind of pick apart and notice what the trends are and things like that. Yeah, it's all good with. I mean, we've all kind of seen it. You know what I mean? We've all seen the crazes that happen. Like you get one picture on Instagram, and now everybody wants the Sistine Chapel on the side of their finger.
Right.
So that's just one of those things that we got to educate these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look at watercolor tattoos, right?
Yeah.
Right. I always used to
Right.
tell everyone that used to come in asking about those. I used to tell them, like, hop on your phone real quick. I'll tell you exactly what to search. I want you to do a quick search for healed watercolor tattoo. And I want you to look at it. And I want you to tell me if you still want a watercolor tattoo.
Let me see
if it's what you still want, we can talk. But if you see that and you look at how it's going to age and you look at how things are going to look in the long run and you don't want to get it, cool. We can still do something similar. We can do a theme, a variation on it, but we'll do it so that it looks better once it's healed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then again, maybe I was just never taught the right way to do watercolor tattoos.
I know, right. Maybe that's it. You know what I mean? But I never liked doing them. I never quite understood them, And then it's not even watercolor. It's abstract. It's just abstract. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know.
It's like, okay, so you want an ink splash.
Yes, just say that.
So a few dots and like some splashy stuff.
Right.
All right. We can yeah, let me play with that idea for a minute.
Right. Yeah, that's what it is.
And now you got a whole minimalist movement going on where people are going ultra minimalist, where they're basically turning around. I want an image made with as only black lines and as few of them as humanly possible. Okay, we can try to figure that out.
Yeah,
that's kind of the way that but you do over time and through experience of working in this industry, you pick up on little trends. You pick up on what's popular and how things are going to go. And it's like, I don't know about you, but I haven't really had anyone come in the past few years that wanted a watercolor tattoo.
No,
and that used to be the style.
Yeah, it's definitely been quite some time. I don't know. Since anybody came in, yeah, it's definitely been a while.
Then again, I also haven't done a wolf in the woods, knock on wood, with blue eyes in quite a while. So, because that was a thing for a while, was silhouette trees and forest.
Yeah, I haven't done one of those in a while either. Yeah. I don't know what the trends are. I haven't even really been noticing any of the trends lately that people have been getting. Now it's fine line. Yeah, it's fine line. Everybody's getting fine line tattoos right now.
Yeah. See a lot of people coming in looking for fine line stuff. A lot of I think we were, for a little while there, we were into an era of like portraiture and people wanting to get like, just portraits of different things, everything.
1 second, Jason, I got somebody. Hey, what's up, bro?
Yeah. But, just because it looks good now and just because it's the in thing right now doesn't mean that it's always going to be the in thing. And maybe I'm wrong. And there will always be a demand for certain things and certain styles, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's still people out there that want Japanese work, and that's great. And that hasn't been a super popular style for quite some time, even though I really, really admire it, especially more of like an illustrative kind of Japanese. I always like to put a little bit of a Western spin on it. But there's always going to be people out there that want certain things, and that's awesome. Finding our own niche is what really matters, in our own way of doing things, and developing our own style and our own unique signature and fingerprint on whatever it is that we do is the key.
That's right. That's right, my good man. Hey, listen, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I'm going to go ahead and work with a client real quick.
Yeah, I'm not too far behind you, man. I'm just finishing up the black shading on this gorilla. I can get rid of my blue values study.
Where it's always a pleasure talking to you, my good man. I'm glad that you have these podcasts. It's really, really great. I learn a lot. So you guys can find me at Tattoos by Spirit at Instagram, Tattoos by Spirit on TikTok, and tattoosbyspirit.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much, as always, for jumping in, man. Always appreciate it. My name is Jason Leeser. Thank you for watching today. You can always find me on Instagram right up here at Philly Inc. And you can find me at Philly Inc. on TikTok. Or you can always email me, Jason at reinventingthetattoo.com. And I'll get back to everyone as soon as I possibly can. Thanks very much for watching every day. If you like today, everyone for watching everything today. Sorry, kind of mumbled my words there. If you like today's episode, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button down at the bottom of the page. And hopefully I will see everyone again next week here for episode 132 of Skill Building Sunday. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care and have a great day.
Bye-bye.